Talk with Faith Mangope. Metro FM.
Well, it is 10 minutes after 8 o'clock on this Wednesday evening. Thank you so much for staying with us in conversation. We're going to have to shake off the first hour. We had so many laughs and giggles on the first hour. But I wanted to get a little bit serious on something that is very pertinent, something that has affected us or we know somebody that has been affected by it. We're talking about hijacking in South Africa. How does it work? The industry, the business of hijacking. Where do the cars go? How do they target you? Which cars are the ones that are targeted? What time do they target you? What time of the day do they target you? And it's going to be a big one because I've got a full house in the studio this evening. And you know what I appreciate for the people that are joining me this evening is that they're all here to help you. Because the criminals keep getting smarter. So we need to be able to defend ourselves and to protect ourselves the best way we can, you know? And sometimes prevention is better than cure. So it's about avoiding the certain places, knowing what to do, knowing what not to do, especially in times of crisis. And I always say this, the best way to catch a criminal is if you can call on the reformed criminals and the former criminals to help us do so. And I thank you so much to my guests who are also going to be part of this conversation as well. So let me, without even further ado, welcome my panel of experts that are joining us this evening. We've got Leighton Beard, who's a spokesperson of the Automobile Association. We've got Duma Ngobo, who is a Chief Operations Officer at Tracker. We've got Marius Kluter, who's the Operations Director at Anti-Hijacking and Policing SA. We've got Mark van Rensburg, who's a tactical paramedic, also from Anti-Hijacking and Policing SA. We're joined by Pastor Ngwenya, who is a pastor, by the way, but he used to be a hijacker. So he's a former convict who's now turned pastor, who's actually educating us. We've also got Mlungi Sizondi on the line, who's an activist and also a former convict who used to be involved in robberies. Okay, so we've got a full house, and this house is for you. Now, the question that I asked you earlier on is, have you ever been hijacked, and what did you go through, and what's your deal, and how? And we're doing this, we're sharing these stories so that we can help protect ourselves the best way that we can. So I'm going to start off from this side, on my left side, and Leighton, bring you into this one, because we see sporadic spikes when it comes to hijacking in South Africa. The recent statistics came out saying that hijacking has also seen an increase, and it's nothing new. We see this time and time again. But what are the patterns? What do we need to look out for? Where are we in the South African context? Paint us a picture.
So I think from our point of view, it's not cyclical. It's just something that happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We saw in 2021 something in the region of 21,000 hijackings. In the first 3 months of 2023, 5,200 hijackings. According to police stats, it's a little lower than 2022, down by about 500. Little consolation to the 5,200 people who were actually hijacked. So you can pretty much, you can say to yourself, it's cyclical. I'm in, for instance, March. It's not going to be a big deal. No, that's not the case at all. It happens on a daily basis, and it happens everywhere in the country. Obviously, it happens in certain areas more than in others. Gauteng is a major hotspot. You got a couple of thousand that happen over a 3-month period in Gauteng. In the Northern Cape, you have maybe 30 or 40. So obviously, depending on where you are. But I think the demographics in terms of people's financial situation is also going to determine that. So people with higher end vehicles, people with vehicles that are more expensive and that drive them on the roads more often, are obviously going to be more targets than people in an area where you don't have those types of vehicle. And I think that accounts for the situation, for instance, between the Gauteng and the Northern Cape. So the bottom line is that it is something that happens on a daily basis. And our advice, just off the top of my head to people, is always be alert. Put your cell phone away. Keep your eyes on the road. It's not only a road safety message that I'm giving, but keep your eyes on everybody around you. It's a good habit to get into. Be aware of your surroundings. Know what's going on. That for us is a key message.
And I want to speak a little bit about where these hijackings actually happen, Duma, because you guys are Tracker, so yours is to track this vehicle, but they happen in certain spaces. The last I was hearing that they also happen in petrol stations, filling stations. Once you are filling up, I think that was the latest one. Never mind the spikings. We'll talk about spikes and all these things as the show goes, but they also happen when you're filling up for petrol. You just don't. Where are the soft or the hot spots that a hijacking actually takes place? Before we get to the provincial breakdown, but where are the hot spots?
So I think we've already touched on the fact that this incident happens every day. I think people need to be aware that we're dealing with a sophisticated criminal who's actually looking out for the opportunity to hijack. So the idea of a filling station, it's a staging platform where people are monitoring you, nice and relaxed. You're coming to fill up fuel, and you are not mindful of the fact that something can go wrong. Just last weekend in Rosebank, here's somebody buying a set of goodies in a store. As they came out, a Golf 7 parked next to them, and a hijacking subsequently occurs. So that's the one kind of scenario. The old-fashioned sort of blue lights, we still see it on the major highways. That is where they mimic a would-be police person or highway patrol vehicle. And then we obviously have the follow me home, where they've been monitoring you just before you get to your gates. That's where the hijacking occurs. But you asked, where do these things tend to happen? They tend to happen next to people's homes. They tend to happen next to people's places of work. They tend to happen even next to people's schools, because they take advantage of the fact that you're relaxed.
Sure. And I want to get into this one even, Marius, around... Because ultimately, you guys have to deal with this kind of stuff. You know, you are the tactical response guys. You guys are the ones that have to. And I can imagine a woman phoning in or a guy phoning in a state of panic, not knowing what is happening and the like. From the cases that you've dealt with, what is the usual modus operandi of the criminal? I mean, we're going to speak to the guys right now, but what is the usual modus? How do they do it?
Well, a recent one that we have done, I'm not going to mention the company's name. There's also a tracking company, where the lady was actually taken hostage in her vehicle. So,
jeez, Marius, where was that? Is it but close to a home or by a mall?
They actually hijacked her at her home.
At her home?
At her home, right in front of her gate. And they took her through to Vosloorus, I think, Mark?
No, they started off in Vosloorus. And then they hijacked, the family were actually braaiing.
They were busy having a family
braai, and these guys came in, and they took the woman. They took only the woman, the wife. They put her in the car, and they drove from Vosloorus right through to Kwatema. And at Kwatema, they obviously the tracking company got very close to them, and they panicked. And then they actually drove into a gate, and they all got out the car and they ran, and they left the woman very distraught.
These guys were armed with AK-47 rifles, assault rifles, not even handguns.
No, correct.
So it's true what our colleague here from Tracker said. These guys are military trained.
Yeah,
they are literally
they're
military
very clever.
trained.
So I'm not dealing with a petty criminal, like
No.
the one that jumps over and says,
No,
what do they
these
call
are
them?
professionals.
Opportunist.
No,
No,
these are
guys
professionals.
are professional. They are military trained.
They are
Whenever they
correct.
execute a plan, they do it to military precision.
Correct.
They know how to use automatic rifles. They know how to shoot. There's some of these guys that somehow they get hold of police tetra radios. These guys are operating big scale, and they know what they are doing. So they won't just rock up at a place and just randomly decide, listen, you're going to take this. They will monitor a victim. They will look at a list of vehicles that's been ordered from the top, and then they will say, okay, this one looks like an easy target. Let's monitor them. Let's hit them.
Okay, guys.
They do their homework.
So let's talk a little bit about that homework. And you've said something so interesting, Morris, about they monitor the vehicle from the top, right? That means that we've got the vehicles that are hot on the list of purchases.
Yes.
Okay. And Dumam, I also want you to come in this one. But let me start off on this side as well. Leighton, which are the cars that are hot on the top? And before I even get to who are the clients, because for every car that is hijacked in this country, there's a client that wants a car that is hijacked. So
in a neighboring country.
There we go. So we'll talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that. But which are the hot cars?
Okay, just a caveat when I answer this. I mean, this is not my information. This is coming directly from the SAPS, and I think Duma can also answer to this. But you're looking at your Toyota Hiluxes, your Ford Rangers, and your Fortuners.
Fortuners, Hiluxes, and Rangers.
Yeah, and I think Duma may give more than that. But those, as far as the SAPS is concerned, are the big ticket cars. These are the cars that are being targeted, and that people are being hijacked in. Yeah.
Sure.
So maybe just to build on that. We normally talk about, and this is a serious topic, but we normally talk about the top 10 list.
Yes.
And I think you've mentioned some of them. And you get different patterns from the so-called top 10 list. So your more 4x4 oriented vehicles, that's generally for cross-border type
The Hiluxes,
movement. Your
the Ford
Hiluxes,
Fortuners.
even your more expensive SUV vehicles, your Prados, etc. Those tend to be moving across the border.
Where are they moving to?
There's our surrounding countries. So just think about it this way. There's a few drivers of this. One is the price parity. So in other words, the cost of the vehicle in our neighboring country versus South Africa, it's much easier to order it from here and get it across the border. So you get a lot of vehicles going into Mozambique. The Cozy Bay, the sort of Komati Port entry points are big entry points for would-be vehicle criminals. And then if you look at your hatchbacks, the so-called polos and those kind of vehicles, those tend to be more for the local type of market. And then the next layer is obviously your second-hand parts market, where vehicle parts, many of them are quite interchangeable. So
Don't they say that
see,
and I don't mean to be saying it, but don't they say like a Toyota is the most durable in terms of parts? It's got common parts?
where the parts may be interchangeable.
Yeah.
I think there is some relevance to that. But I also think, if you're not insured, you have an accident with your vehicle, it's much easier for someone to bring you the spare parts of a newer vehicle.
We're going to take a quick break, guys. We're going to come back, and we're also speaking to Pastor Ngwenya, and we're also speaking to Mlungisi Zondi. These are individuals that were involved in crime that can tell us about the crime. It's 23 minutes after 8 o'clock. We're still in the conversation regarding hijacking. How does it work? Who gets hijacked? How do they hijack? Where do they take the cars? Who are the purchasers, right? Who purchases these stuff, the stolen stuff? Who are the clients? Because everywhere where there's supply, there's definitely demand. And the reason why we've got so much demand is because this demand is going to somebody who really wants the supply. So how does it work? And we get to find out, how do we keep yourself safe? How do you keep you safe more than anything else? Now I'd like to bring in Pastor Ngwenya. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer. Pastor Ngwenya now is a reformed convict. Okay, he used to be a hijacker. He was involved in crime and he served his time, and now he's basically educating us on how this stuff works. But Pastor Ngwenya, thank you so much for your time and welcome to Metro FM Talk. First of all, thank you for your bravery to speak out as somebody who used to be a hijacker.
Yes. I'm so grateful to share this knowledge with the whole South Africa. Yes.
Pastor Ngwenya, maybe let's start off from the beginning, right? Okay, so how do you know who tells you to hijack whatever car? How does it work? Who are the bosses and who are the dealers? What's the food chain looking like? What is the hierarchy looking like?
First of all, we need to understand that those who are still in drugs, smoking drugs, and all those things, anyone can be a buyer. Anyone can be a buyer. A businessman can be a buyer. A taxi owner can be a buyer. Those who are in scrapyard can be a buyer. Anyone, because during the time while we're still committing such crimes, we didn't care who was wanting a car, but we were sure that because they will give us the name of the car they want.
Who's they? I want to take you back to the start, Pastor Ngwenya. So how do you? Who gives you the list and says, okay, I want you to go and hijack a Fortuna, for that matter, or whatever. Who's the they? Who is the they in this? Is it and how do you find the client? Is it the client directly? Is it a client via somebody else? How do you get the list of what car to hijack?
I think because of the crime, the more you commit crime, the other thugs, they eventually knows you and there's a networking that is happening underground in terms of crimes. There's a networking that is happening, and eventually they hook you up with those people who need cars.
Okay.
So now, yes, they hook you up with those people who need cars. That's why I said it can be a businessman, it can be a taxi owner, it can be anyone who will approach those guys who are dealing with hijack. So, because during the time when we were hijacking, we were only looking for money.
How much is it to hijack a car?
It depends, because if we hijack a car and bring it while it's in hot, or bring it to be before maybe taking off the trackers, it's cheaper. You can even get 10,000, you can even get 20,000 or 50.
Wait, per car?
Yes.
Wait a second. Wait, let me understand, Pastor Gwen. So you hijacking this car, you take the car, you drop it to the client, they give you 10,000 rand.
You drop it to the client first, then they give you 10,000 or 20.
Okay.
Cash, and then you go away.
Okay, and that's from the clients, and that's when you have not stripped it. That's when you haven't taken out the tracker while it's still hot.
You haven't stripped it. You haven't taken off the trackers and everything.
Okay.
You shall take it as it is, maybe from robots or maybe from the. Once they give you a target, once we see that car, we will follow it until we take it.
Okay, so let's say that where do you spot it? So where do you go to spot this car? So let's say you're driving on the highway. Do you randomly spot it on the highway?
We go to malls. Because as we were going during the time, we don't take any car, because we take according to the demand of the buyer. We take according to the demand of the buyer. So we are not just going to take any car. So we take according to the demand. But we are going to malls, we're going to towns, and we are going to suburbs. We're going to suburbs during the time. Suburbs were a good place, quiet, and it is easy.
How many are you that do a hijacking at the same time?
We were two. Only two enough.
Okay. And then, okay, so then you spot the vehicle, you follow the person, or you spot the vehicle, and then what do you use? Let's say that the car is in a mall, ne? The car that you want is in a... What do you use? What do you use to get inside that vehicle and to set off the alarm?
The kind of crimes that I was doing, because I was a hijacker only. So during the time, we will wait for someone to approach the car. Once you approach the car, we accompany the person with the gun maybe at the back, making sure that no one realizes it's like you're hacking the person. But while you are still hacking, then the gun is already on the side. And then you tell the person that you open the door. So people will not be able to identify that this is robbery happening. And sometimes we will stand at the robot wearing, because we'll change some clothes, because we will normally change clothes based on the event or the places we will be. If we are if we are going to hijack cars in the robot, we will wear clothes like overalls and having those pamphlets, so that the car that we need will make sure that it will stand, so that we'll rob it from the robot.
Stop there, because I want us to really get this message here. The guys that are handing out pamphlets at the robots, the ones that are dressed in overalls, not all of them work there. Some of them are actually hijackers.
Yes, not all of them. Some of them, they are employed, but because we knew that, we identified that many people, they stand there. So sometimes we use the strategy as a means now to hijack cars. But not everyone is standing at the robot is a hijacker. Some are really employed.
But you guys, to cover yourselves, you will, or to camouflage yourself, you will dress up as in overalls and hand out flyers.
Yes, it was another strategy that we were using during the time. Yes.
Where else did you hijack?
Anywhere in your house, because some people, when they come to their houses, what they normally do, they leave the car while the engine is running, and they go to open the gate. It's a good opportunity. There you just take the car. You don't need to even rob the person. You just take the car, you put it there in the scrapyard, you get your money, you go and do your things.
Which are the scrapyards that you were using?
There are many scrapyards that we were using at the time. Some of them are now closed because it was during the time about 2001, 2002. Yes, during the time. Yes.
Okay, but then are they around Johannesburg? Diko Alex, Diko Kai. Where are the scrapyards?
Gomorrah, Tembisa,
Okay.
Davidton. It depends where the buyer is.
You know what? It's funny, Pastor Ngwing, as you're speaking, my guests here who are there to tackle the crime are nodding. So they clearly agree. This is the most...
Yes,
I've never had a conversation like this where I've had somebody who's done the crime speak to people that are trying to solve the crime. It's like a surreal moment for all of us. Do you have a question for Pastor Ngwenge, by the way?
No, not so much a question, but it is a cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
So the reason why we acknowledge what he's saying is because a lot of the points he's making resonates with what we see.
Correct.
Right? We're obviously trying to stop it,
Yeah.
and they're obviously trying to get away. And he spoke about changing their methods, sometimes being at the robot, sometimes being at the mall.
And some are spotters.
Some
as
are
well.
spotters.
Spotters.
What are spotters?
So what he was talking about, they are spotting. In other words, here's the vehicle that's on order.
Okay.
Let us monitor this vehicle and make sure that we know it's just passed and this is where it's going. It's a woman with a child at the back
And
and
then they
she's
watch
on her phone, and then they'll talk to others who are in the vehicle to say, follow that car.
Pastor Ngwenge, I'm going to ask you something. At any moment when you're doing this, and I understand that at the time you're a criminal, do you ever think about the person in the car? So let's say that you've spotted a Ford, and the Ford is driving, and you realize that the Ford has got a baby at the back and it's got a woman. Is there anything inside of your conscious, anything that says to you, I'm about to hijack a woman? Do you have Babi Zuvalo or like a conscious?
Yes,
do you ever have that?
Yes, actually the question you are asking is the last case when I was arrested. Like the last case when I was arrested in Tembisa, at Straight Line, we hijacked a car from Binoni inside the yard. It was a white lady, and inside that car there was a young child. This is not just exactly this is what happened to my case.
So you were hijacking a white lady. There was a child in the car.
There was a car. Yes, there was a child in the car.
Okay.
And what happened? We phoned the lady, and she screamed. She said, "My car, my." And then we took the child and we gave to the lady. We said, "No, we want a car." So we gave her the child, and we took a car. And that car is the last crime that I committed. It was the case, and I was arrested in Tembisa. Yes, but we gave the lady the child. Yes, this is a true story. Yes, this is a true story.
Sure. And that's what I'm saying, that I appreciated it. I appreciate you sharing the story. I'm going to take a couple of calls as well. Let me go to Soweto. Hi, Mandla.
Hi, Mama Ngope. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, and you, so go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Mom. You know, this hijack thing is very serious.
Yeah.
I was once hijacked, and you know, it's like these guys. They have a routine. You know, they study your movement, each and every movement that you make. What time do you come back? Where do you go? And what is it that you do and stuff like that? Yeah, it was on one Friday in 2013. I was driving a BMW 320, the 2010 model. Yeah, so I was coming back, you know, with our culture, when there's death in the family, you'll stay there until late and you'll bid each other farewell to go sleep and then to see each other next day. Yeah, I left them around 11 p.m. to say, hey guys, I'll see you, let me go home. It was on a Friday. So when I arrived home, obviously I have to go out of the car, open the gate, go inside, open the roller door, and the one gentleman said, we leave our cars idling. It's true. At times, we are so ignorant that you say, man, it's my neighborhood. Nothing will happen. Yeah, fortunately with me, I left the car idling. I went inside, opened the roller door, went inside the car, unaware that there are guys who are watching every movement that I did. So, as soon as I parked the car, as I was just about to move out of the garage door to go and close the gate, one guy passed as if he's going to next door. The other one came straight to me, pointing a gun at me, and said, "Ish, you don't make any noise. You make a noise, I kill you." And thinking of how young my kids are, and in the house it's only my wife and my kids, I just said, okay, whatever you want. I decided just to cooperate, thinking that when you cooperate, you're sparing your life. So I cooperated. They made me lie down, and they are young boys,
Sure.
The third one came wielding a very big knife. There I was thinking that it's my last day of, breathing air.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, fortunately, they went inside the garage. They took out my gun. And one of them said, meaning that, here it is, I found it. Which means that these people, probably they were told about me. They knew what they were looking for. They tied me and they threw me inside the boot of the car.
Sure.
They tied both my hands and my legs together, and they told the boot they left with the car. But as they were reversing, there was another car that passed by, and it applied some wood to say, "Hey guys, are you okay?" No, sharp. Then they left. But as they were leaving, they were moving slowly, not very much in a hurry, leaving the garage door opened and the gate opened like that. Now, you're a neighborhood. As they were driving, I could tell when they stopped, okay, this is our first stop. And then I'm struggling to try and untie myself. They fastened me with, extension cord. Because that thing is elastic. The more you wrap and apply some force, one way or the other you'll get loose. I happened to release my hand, and then inside the boot there is that thing that you pull to open the boot, and I ran for my life.
Yo.
They stopped, tried to chase me, but the other said, "No, me again." They left me. That's how I survived.
Mandla, I won't even lie to you. I am so glad that you survived and you lived to tell the tale today. I'm so glad you managed to escape, and I can't tell you how relieved I am. I always say that an asset, an item can always be replaced. Your life can't. Your life really is that precious, and sometimes we hold on to our assets. And I'm going to talk to the guys just so I'm Mark, and especially with you and Morris, because you guys have seen this, where people lose their lives because they're holding on to their assets. I want to take there's a lady that's just called in from Middleburg. I'm going to take her first before I come to you, especially on that note. Let me go to Mapadi in Middleburg. Hi.
Hi, yes, it's Mapadi.
Hello, Mapadi. Go ahead, Mama.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. With me, I just want to share. I've had 2 attempts, hijackings. Yeah, I drive one of the most after accidents by VW. So the first one, am I allowed to mention the name of the shopping centers?
Yeah, I mean, it was where you were hijacked. It's okay.
Yeah, it was an attempt in Randburg Square.
Okay.
So lunchtime around 1 o'clock, I leave my office, go to the shop. And then, after doing the shopping, get into my car, leave the parking. On my way to the office, I noticed it's a busy hour, but then there's this particular car which is just traveling with me. And what made me suspicious is they always on my blind spot. I can't see clearly. So when you stop at a traffic light, they don't stop like next to you, they're on your blind spot, so you can't actually get a glimpse of what's going on. And then, you know how we get advice to, if you suspect, make like various just drive around. So this car is with me. And then, but in that time, sometimes you just think you're just being paranoid. I'm like, no, let me drive to the office. But when I approached the gate, something just told me, no, man, this guy is still here. I think that was the opportunity for them to, where they were going to take the car. So I decided not to go in. I passed. Next to the office is the traffic light. So when I'm driving down, the traffic light is red. I make a quick observation. There's no cars coming. So I pass the traffic light is red. And that car also passed. That's when I knew that they're coming for me.
Sure.
So, yeah. And then nearby there was the Shell garage. I managed to go in there. And at the speed which I entered the garage, everyone was surprised. What's wrong? So there was a security patrol car there. I explained to them. So they actually spotted the car. I think they thought maybe I'll just go there and come out. But I didn't, yeah. So I think what the gentleman said to say, just be aware of your surroundings. And then the second time it happened to me on the N4, I was traveling from Arnold to Pretoria, like 8 a.m. in the morning. I had just done my night shift at the mine. So just as I was approaching the Diamond Hill plaza, the toll gate, like early morning, the road deserted, no cars. When I'm approaching, I'm driving on the first lane, and then I spot a white car on the first lane also, but on the side of the road. Then I slow down, thinking maybe traffic cops. And then, to my surprise, when I approached the car just drove straight into the road.
Sure. But I have to leave it here, Mama. But I thank you. You know what? I thank you that all of you that are phoning in alive, first of all, and that you're alive to tell the story. That's what counts, because we could have been talking about a different story where you did not survive this. So for the fact that you're phoning in, it means that you are alive to tell the tale. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much, my buddy. I have to leave it here just for the sake of time. But Mark, I want to go to you because you guys were nodding. When it comes to, people go through the motions of, anger and frustration and shock and terror while all of this is happening. And a lot of them lose their lives while being hijacked. What is it that we do that antagonizes the criminal at that moment in time? Because we need to be able to understand the psychology of the criminal as well as people.
Being a paramedic for many years, and I was in the National Defence Force for 16 years as well, and the police for 7 years. I myself was hijacked. I was a victim.
Sure.
2 years ago. And it was just outside a complex. I was busy fiddling around with the intercom system, and I had a passenger with me. I won't name any names, and all of a sudden I had a gun pointing to my head, and obviously I recognized this. First of all, I recognized this vehicle as a former police Beretta. So whether it was stolen or whether it was bought from a police station or whatever, I don't know. We never know where these weapons come from, and we won't ever know where these guys are getting the weapons.
So it was a police stuff. So
it was definitely I used to have a Beretta when I was in the police force, and it was exactly the same, identical. And not only that, I was very calm. Me being a trauma counsellor as well, I knew what to do. Not like other victims, like Mandla said earlier. I was listening to his conversation. It seemed like that he was very calm as well, which is very good. And that's the big thing, that the people must stay calm. They have to be very calm, and they must not even try and do anything to upset the criminals or anything. Because
I heard that don't even look at them. Somebody was saying that when a criminal stops, you don't look at them.
No, look, I was in my Land Rover and I was holding my steering wheel and I was looking forward all the time with this gun. I just had a brief look at the gun, because obviously, and it was unfortunate that when he said I might need to put my vehicle into park because he wanted to take my Land Rover, it went into reverse instead, and I just reversed out of there very quickly. So, but as that happened, he lowered his gun and he shot me through the leg, which obviously shattered my fibula.
He shot you?
Yes, he actually shot me through my leg. Yeah. So afterwards, when we got the casing, it was definitely one of the ex-police 9 casings.
Wait, what do you mean, guys? This is a former police.
Yeah, it was confirmed there was a police round because I was the one that done the recovery on the round in the vehicle for the detectives.
I landed up in hospital and he came to recover my vehicle.
Yes, so when I had a look at the projectile, the only projectiles with the open lead surface at the back is a military round.
And the only people that have got access to a military round is the police.
So, and your civilian full metal jackets is all fully covered at the back. So that's how you can determine if it's a military round
or police or whatever.
So the South African Defence Force uses military rounds. The police uses military rounds. Metro Police uses military rounds. So it can be either of 3, 4.
Wait, I need to go back to the former convicts. Okay.
No, definitely.
Pastor Ngweng, I'm going to ask you something again. When you were committing the crime, did you work with the police? And I'm going to be specific by saying corrupt police officers. Did you work with corrupt police officers who were also doing the crime?
Yes, those who were giving in the information. It depends on the nature of the crime. Sometimes it depends on the nature of the crime, but sometimes they give information.
So the police would give information about the car?
Yes, information about the car, especially when it involves those cars that are in the 13. Those cars sometimes they get lost or stolen, and where the police they store those cars. But yes.
So you were working with the police?
Yes.
Morris?
So what they will do then? They will spot a vehicle, say for instance an NP200 bakkie, and they will take the registration number. Then they will go to these guys and tell them, listen here, I need the details of this vehicle. Here's 2,000 rand. I want to know to what address is this vehicle registered to. Then they test it on the MCD system, which give you the guy's ID number, his full address.
All our ID numbers and full addresses are on that stuff,
on
aren't
the
they?
MCD system,
everything.
Correct. Everything's on MCD.
Your initials, your surname. So eventually, when these guys get the information, it's a quick test. It takes them about literally 30 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's quick.
They give him the information, or they will WhatsApp or screen grab it and send it to him. And they will go and check the address out. No, this is the vehicle that we want. This is the correct information. They will hit the vehicle. So by the time they hit you, they already know what your name is, what your surname is, plus your ID number. And they're going to take whatever they want.
And they know this from the police. I'm going to bring in another person that is an ex-convict. Mlungisi zoned into this one. Mlungisi, thank you so much, and thank you for your bravery to speak out. You were also doing, was it armed robbery? Was it house robberies as well, Mlungisi?
Was
it robberies that you were doing?
Yes, I'm in robbery matters. The sense they heist 5 million, 35 million. Kwasho ukuthi ke masithi siyaphuma kwangasaphumeke kwabiza ukuthi adubule ukuthi sokhona ukuphuma zaphela intamvu zegebengu kwabiza ukuthi asarende sabantu saboshwa.
Sure. Bensebenza namaphoyisa. Did you also work with the police?
No, thina besisebenza nabantu abangaphakathi la besiyolanda khona le mali le 5 million.
Like a cash in transit?
Yes, siswami no thina besibamba iShoprite kahle kahle siswami kuyimatendi imali yonke ikhona. Yes, siswami kwasho ukuthi ke masithi siyaphuma kanti akusaphumeki.
Oh wow. Hi Mlungisi, and I do thank you so much for speaking out about this, and because this is what Pastor I'm going to go back to you. The weapons that you guys use, you said that you've got guns, sometimes you use knives. The guns that you use in hijackings, who provides you with those guns?
The guns we disarm. First of all, we disarm. If there's a police around who's having a gun, we disarm the police sometimes with a knife. Or if there's a security that we know, maybe the railway station that are carrying guns and pump guns, we will go there and disarm them. There was no one who supplied us with guns, but we make sure that we will have guns.
And then, but you did work with police to give you who were spotters, who would tell you the car, the registration, and everything else that you need to hit.
Yes, but that one is not happening. It was not happening often. It happened maybe once or twice while I was working with other guys from Force Lawrence. Yeah, but it does not. It was happening often. That one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Duma.
I want us to be mindful here. There is an element of corrupt police persons,
100%.
and that we know.
Yeah.
And that's what he's referring to say once or twice there were police persons who are corrupt and obviously are maybe enticed by money and so on. I think in the main, these guys are a business. They know that in order to commit the crime, you need two pieces of uniform. You need a firearm and you need a vehicle. The firearm is to compromise security, is to threaten lives, and the vehicle is to get away with the loot. And that is why all of us keep nodding, because one way or the other, we are all interconnected. So the guys that steal and hijack vehicles, they will do so in order to get away or to actually sell the vehicle itself.
Help me stay safe, Leighton. When do I need to know? Because I heard that there are days in the week that peak for hijackings. Then there are days of the month that peak for hijackings, and then there are times that peak for hijackings. Keep us safe. When are those days? When are those days of the month and days of the of the week that peak for hijackings?
Yeah, I think Duma would probably be able to answer in terms of the days of the week. Duma?
Yeah. So what we tend to see, and this is not an exact science.
Yeah.
So firstly, hijacking and thefts happen every day.
Yeah.
But there's a greater sort of sway towards hijackings, sort of on a Thursday and Friday. And then we tend to see more thefts on a Saturday. He spoke about people being at a mall, at schooling events, at rugby, cricket events.
Yeah.
That is prime for theft, because you're busy enjoying the game. You have no idea what's happening with your vehicle. And the guys that are security basically get tipped off, or they tell them, you get away from here, otherwise we'll injure you. So the hijackings tend to happen more closer during the week, so-called Puza Thursday or Friday late, up until about 8 to 10 p.m. And then Saturdays, as I said, we see the thefts.
But in terms of keeping yourself safe, what I really liked about what Mandla said earlier, he used a very good word, and that word was cooperate.
Yeah.
So our advice to people always is cooperate as far as you can. I mean, Mark and Marius are speaking about staying calm, and these guys have been trained in staying calm. Guy like me is going to freak out completely if there's a gun to my head.
Cry.
Correct.
So and I mean, I'm not, I'm 6'4". I'm not afraid to say I'm going to freak out when there's a gun to my head. It's one of those.
Oh my God.
Yeah, oh my God.
You will.
Gun to your head, it doesn't matter how big you are.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. You've got to stay as calm as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But I think cooperation is a very key message that the AA wants to get out to people. Show your hands at all time. Make sure that they can see your hands at all time. That for us is the most important thing. There's a child in the car. Explain. I got my baby in the car. Let me take my baby. I just want to take my baby. You can have my cell phone. You can have my wallet. You can have my bag. You can have whatever. I need my child. I want to take my child. And I think the feedback that we've got from people and from security people is that 80% of the time, hijackers don't want the hassle of a baby. They don't want the hassle of a child. They're going to say, take the child, just get out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the other point besides cooperation, and that is, and you also mentioned it, Faith, very important. Nothing is more important than your life and the life of your loved one. Let the car go. It's a 2 million rand vehicle. So what? Your life is worth much, much more than that, and so is the life of your kid. So that's very important. The last thing I want to say is, if you really want to keep yourself protected, you've got to start looking at personal protective measures, not weapons, because guys like Mark and Marius are guys that are trained in that. Again, I'm not a gun guy. So, there are products on the market now. The AA has one of them. I'm not doing a sales job, but you need panic buttons. You need to have panic buttons that can summon people like Mark and Marius that can come to your aid. So you need to have a panic button. You can keep it in your pocket while you're driving. If you get out the car, you can press it. But that's the type of thing that we're talking about. Make sure that you're covered. Let the car go. Cooperate as far as you can. But the minute you're out of the car and you're able to do that, press your panic button. It doesn't need a cell phone to operate. Press that panic button, and at least you will be more safe. And people like Duma's people and the Mark and Marius's of the world are going to be able to look after your car. I think it's very critical what you said. Thank God everybody is alive and talking about it. That's the most important thing. That's the last piece of advice.
I just want to add something to what you were saying. I think you've covered a lot of the points. But know your surroundings. I think a lot of us take things for granted.
100%. Ladies, get off your cell phones when you buy the robots and when you buy the filling station. I know I'm guilty of it too. Get off your phones.
Or the last pamper before I get home.
Get off the lipstick. I know I do it too.
Lipstick on my way home.
Thank you.
So that's one key thing. And use your tool sets. There's things like Share My Journey, various other products and services that you can let loved ones know, especially when you're driving late at night, or if you're kind of vulnerable. It's very, very important. And I think everyone has said the rest.
No, absolutely. Look, there's also a lot of families are using self-trackers now. I mean, a lot of the kids at school, for example, they've all got cell phones for one thing, so that the mom and dads can actually track you to see where you are and what you're doing. So that is quite important as well. Everything here that we're talking tonight is people need to be vigilant. They need to be wide awake. They need to be focused. South Africa is not safe anymore. And like you said, beware of your surroundings. Just know where you are, what are you doing, how you are moving around, etc. That kind of thing. I know it's not my business, but my sisters, for example, or my sister might go somewhere and she'll tell me, listen, I'm going to this place or I'm going to that place. At least I know where she's going. Because if she just goes, I don't know where she's going to or whatever. Even, and a lot of families are doing that now. They have to do it for their own safety's sake.
I love what you're saying, because it's very real. The truth of the matter is, when we drive out of here, we have to be aware. Get off the phone. Be aware of where you're driving. Absolutely. Be aware of who's following you.
Just on that point, when you drive out of here, and I'm speaking about Radio Park specifically, very big issue at the moment, and I noticed this when I came here tonight. There's rolling blackouts in this area.
Correct.
So it's super dark out there. It's an absolute perfect ground for anybody to commit a crime.
Correct.
Again, just to what Duma and Mark and Marius have been saying. Focus.
I'm going to get them to escort me out tonight because I'm freaked out of note, Marius.
No problem.
I think they're going to help me first.
We need your services tonight. Marius?
I have to agree with everyone here. I always say be aware of your surroundings. If somebody stops next to you, these oaks, they will stop next to you, get out of the car and hijack you. In December, we had a case in Johannesburg CBD, just after 9 the night, where they actually tried to hijack a lady, but they were not knowing that her sister is driving behind her with her kids in the car. So they shot this lady dead. They didn't even took a car.
Sure.
So it was a failed hijacking. It was a loss of life.
For no reason.
For no reason. Her kids witnessed how did their mom get killed. It's sad.
It's very tragic.
They are ruthless, and I call them ruthless criminals. A lot of people asked us, you guys just go and when you see these guys, you just shoot them. It's not about shooting them. It's not a pleasure for us to shoot at people. But you know what? We have to defend ourselves as well. We can't pull this guy over or try to stop him and ask him, sorry sir, can you please get out of your car? No, he's going to send you 6 feet under.
I tell you one thing, guys. I need to get out of here because time is gone. But more than anything else, I appreciate the fact that you were able to come here and educate us. And I think we need more of these conversations because the criminals cannot keep winning. I'm going to wrap up. My producer says I need to wrap up with this voice note. I'm going to wrap up with this voice note.
Waiti, I've never heard any radio presenter as brave as this lady. Hey, Faith. I get the pill, yo. When you are pressing buttons that were never pressed before. You are to me you are what Sizoktola is to Mzansi's crime. You are to us as listeners. That way, you turn the buttons where nobody wants to turn them. You ask relevant questions and you tackle issues that we are sometimes afraid to ask. Thank you for being brave and very straightforward with your conduct right there in the studio. And thanks to the gentleman and the pastor right there for coming through with this information. This is Diamond right here in Rustenburg.
Diamond, it's teamwork, and I thank you so much for listening. I thank you to all of you for listening. Listen, I gotta go home. I need to get these guys home so that they can get me home. Let's keep talking. These conversations are the conversations that build the nation. Remember what I always say: when this country works, it works for all of us. Until we talk again, good night.
Metro FM Talk with Bait Mongope. Metro FM.